everybody, welcome back to another Blind Tuesdays. Hope you guys have been enjoying the content on the channel as of late. And before we get started, just to let you know, in case you guys hear any noises in the background, just my brother has people over, so just excuse some of the noises that you may hear in the background. I'll try to my best to echo that stuff out, um, but for today's Blind Tuesdays, we spun the wheel and we chose a French New Wave film. And we actually did a French New Wave film not too long ago with the 400 Blows, which I liked. I thought it was pretty good. Not great. I would actually argue it's not really representative of the French New Wave, as it's more standard than anything. But this one that we're going to talk about is definitely an example of said movement, and that film being Cleo from 5 to 7, which was written and directed by Agnes Varda, who was also a huge, very important figure within such a movement. And released in 1962, so right when the French New Wave was ending, actually. Yeah, so it was pretty close towards the end of the movement itself. The movement starting in the late 50s. Actually, yes, 1958 to the late 60s, actually. So actually, no, this is actually in the midst of the movement itself. So very, just dab smack in the middle sort of thing. But Cleo from 5 to 7 tells the story of a young singer named Florence, who mostly goes by her name, her artist name, Cleo. And it details a specific time in her day. It doesn't, chronicleize, events from like days and days out. It's very specific in an hour or so. Hence the movie why it's called Cleo from 5 to 7, because it talks about a very specific moment in her life where she's waiting on a test that may confirm a diagnosis of cancer, and she's basically, in this state of anxiety and mourning, but also of acceptance, and she's basically preparing for what could happen and what the results could entail. And essentially that's what the film is representing pretty much entirely, is that of one's anxiety and one's stress within that unknowing factor, and walking through that aimless aura and wrapping itself within these mechanics of the French New Wave, I think really enhances the film quite a bit and really represents the movement, I think, the best in terms of the three films that I've seen from such a movement, one being Breathless, which I quite enjoy, and of course the 400 Blows, which we just mentioned. But I think what Cleo from 5 to 7 gets really well, comparing it to like Breathless, which is the most iconic from that movement, is that Cleo from 5 to 7 has a narrative that I think lends itself more to playing with that style and making that style more meaningful in design. Whereas Breathless, it's kind of a artistic flirt, and it's an artistic flirt that's really, really enticing and very charming and very nice to watch. It's a very good film overall, but what I think Cleo from 5 to 7 gets better is that it has that narrative that is, and those ideas on its mind, that packaging of ideas, like I said, about anxiety and about that unawareness, about what could happen. Those quick, sharp cuts and the off-putted nature that the film possesses, and that overall technicality that is within the French New Wave, works very well within the confines of this than with something like Breathless, or what was pretty much absent in the 400 Blows. Because you do feel that sense of wariness and that sense of anxiety and that sense of unpredictability. You're not necessarily sure what will happen. So it really does put you in that state of mind that the character itself is in. And those technical features, help elevate that. And they're not just there just to just to kind of flirt within its technical features. It's actually there for a very meaningful purpose. Um, I think emotionally it works really well as well. I found myself, very mostly involved, um, and aesthetically, I mean, I'm a sucker again for black and white. The aesthetics are very nice. I remember, especially towards the end, when she gets the gets the diagnosis, the results, just the place that she was at within like this park or something. I thought it was very nice, aesthetically speaking. Um, and the framework is great. Just reading my notes here, that I had. So, excuse me if I'm looking down, um, but the random like nature that it possesses, which the French New Wave you can assess was, which is like kind of this inconsistent value, this inconsistent representation of ideas. I think really is more of a benefit here than I had with other films in this movement. And it's a film when I first watched it, I was kind of off-putted by because it was my first real dip into that movement. But now seeing other films of that resided within this movement, I just think that Angus Svarta, the filmmaker behind this, I think she just really capitalizes on those technical features and utilize them in a way that are resonant, uh, challenging in terms of its style, but rewarding at the same time. It's not something that just makes you go, okay, well, what's happening? What? It's more of like, okay, this is deepening the knowledge of the circumstance. This is deepening the knowledge of the character that we're following, and it's putting us in that mindset. It's not that we're having to decipher what's happening. We're actually getting more involved and more into that headspace. And initially when I saw it, like I said, it was just my first dip into it, and I just, I was more trying to stomach the style of it. But then, now getting more of a awareness and an understanding of this movement, and going back to revisit the film, I always find myself just in better company with this film and more memory of this film than that of Breathless or what I just saw recently with the 400 Blows, because aesthetically it just has more going for it. Stylistically, it just has more merit, more meaning behind it. Again, it's not just there just to flirt. It's there to deepen the knowledge of deepen the circumstance itself. And overall, narratively speaking, it is really good for the move within such a movement, and it empowers it. It enhances it. It doesn't take away from it, as I would argue that 400 Blows or maybe something like Breathless, where a style can actually kind of diminish a little bit of what's happening. That style elevates it and really puts you in that mindset of that anxiety and that wariness, like just I'm not that very doubtful like mindset. It's a style that works really, really well to its benefit. And it's a film that I revisit the most when in the context of like the French New Wave. So I really enjoy it. Initially when I saw it, I was kind of off-put by it. Mostly enjoyed it, but kind of like, not fully there yet. But now like really sitting on it a year or so after seeing it, I really enjoy it. And as within the movement of the French New Wave, I could very much see why people talk about it the most, because I've heard this film, I talked about a lot. And I think this saw this movie in college. Actually, this is my first experience of Cleo from 5 to 7 was actually in film classes. And I get why the professors would want to showcase this film more so than like Breathless or anything, because not only is it representative of the movement, but it utilizes that style in a way that is just more impactful than of what I've seen before, or what I would come to see later in Breathless and the 400 Blows. So if you want to see something that really encapsulates, really represents that style, that movement, I would point you to Cleo from 5 to 7, and just in a overall quality, Cleo from 5 to 7, I would say, wins out for me. And it's just something that really that leaves a mark and stylistically has more meaning going on than what you would find in other films of this movement. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on Cleo from 5 to 7. I thought it was pretty good, and the more I sit on it, after a few years after seeing it, I find myself enjoying it more and more as time goes on. So yeah, so those are my thoughts on that. And this being Blind Tuesdays, we are going to go back to the wheel here, and we're going to see what's up. So I'm going to crank up the volume here. We're going to spin the wheel, and let's see what we got for next week. So here we go. So next week on Blind Tuesdays, it's going to be a... Oh, shit. Okay. Wow, I was close to a different one, but... All right, so it's going to be a film from the 90s. So that's a lot of films that we can choose from there. The 90s was a particularly good year for film, so... that and the 70s were also a great year, but 90s was also pretty good. But yeah, so 1990s, that is the criteria for next week. So not genre specific, just a film that came out in the 1990s. Let me know your thoughts, your choices in the comment section below. And of course, your thoughts on Cleo from 5 to 7, and just in general with the French New Wave. Is there a film in particular that you enjoy? I was going to check out Les Bonbonnaires, I think that's what you call it. But I just didn't have the time for it, so I figured, hey, let's just talk about Cleo from 5 to 7. It's a good time as any. So, but you guys know your thoughts in the comment section below. All things French New Wave and your choices for the 1990s, your picks for that. And that's gonna be it for me, guys. Thank you guys for tuning in, and until then, I will catch you guys in the next video. Bye.